As always, welcome into the program. We got to start with the AP Top 25. The first one was released today. And I tell you what, it's interesting. Some of the teams that are there, also, not necessarily that are there, but just the rankings and the way that they're set up. It's kind of fun to look at these, and we'll get into that. It's no surprise as we'll roll through them really quick here. Alabama, of course, number one. Oklahoma, number two. Surprise, surprise. Those two teams were right where you would expect them to be. Clemson at number three. Ohio State at four. Georgia at five. Texas A&M at six. Iowa State at seven. Cincinnati at eight. Notre Dame at nine. North Carolina at 10. Oregon at 11. Wisconsin at 12. Number 13 is the Florida Gators. Number 14 is Miami. Number 15, Southern Cal. 16 is LSU. Interesting to see LSU that far down there. Indiana at 17, Iowa at 18, 19 is Penn State, 20 is Washington, 21 is Texas. Coastal Carolina checks in at number look at that and you think, okay, there's some teams from the Sun Belt, but that kind of makes you think a little bit when you really stop and look at it. That the idea is that a lot of having a lot of teams from outside of the Sun Belt, is something that you don't normally see. But I thought we would look at some of the past. We did this with the coaches poll. But if you look last season at the AP Top 25, the very first set of rankings from the preseason, Clemson was number one. They finished at number three. Let's start with the top of the final rankings. Alabama was number one. They started number three. Ohio State was number two. They started number two. Clemson was number three. They started number one. Texas A&M finished fourth, started 13th. Notre Dame finished fifth, started 10th. Oklahoma finished sixth, started fifth. And then Georgia finished seventh, started fourth. Cincinnati finished eighth, started 20th. Iowa State finished ninth, started 23rd. Then it gets interesting. At number 10 is Northwestern. They started the season at number 10. I finished the season at number 10, started the season not ranked. BYU, not ranked at the beginning of the season, finished 11th. Indiana, 12th at the end of the season, not ranked at the beginning of the season. Florida finished 13th, started 8th. Coastal Carolina, not ranked, finished 14th. Louisiana, 15th, not ranked at the beginning of the season. Iowa, 24th at the beginning of the season, finished 16th. Liberty, not ranked, but finished 17th. North Carolina, started 18th, finished 18th. That's interesting. Texas at 14th, finished 19th. Oklahoma State started 15th, finished 20th. Southern Cal, not ranked, to 21st. Miami, started not ranked, 22nd. Ball State, started not ranked, 23rd. San Jose State, started not ranked, 24th. And Buffalo, started not ranked, finished 25th. What have we learned from this? It's the same thing as we've been talking about with my bookcase of accountability that is to the right. And that is, none of these polls mean a damn thing. They really don't mean anything. They're nice to look at. And we've talked about this before. There, once again, are already people talking about X team has 5 teams that are scheduled in the preseason top 25. Really? Because under that logic, from last year in the preseason top 25, teams that finished ranked, you had 25 teams in the original rankings. Of those 25, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 teams that ended up ranked in the top 25 that didn't start the season that way. These are not, once again, a way to look at something and say, this is how tough my schedule is because I have X amount of teams that are in that poll. These polls lean heavily towards Power 5 conferences. They lean heavily towards teams that are in the SEC and the ACC and the Big Ten. If you're a team like BYU and even lesser known teams, when I say lesser known, I mean the smart kids, Northwestern, etc., they're not going to look at you as a valid team in the beginning of the season. They're just not. They're just not. I will take your calls on the poll at 803-978-1832. If you're calling to say my team plays X amount of teams that are ranked in the preseason top 25, I am going to laugh at you. I'm just serious. These rankings mean absolutely nothing. Okay? Nothing. It's just something to sell preseason magazines. By the way, lots of things did happen over the weekend. A couple of them are very interesting. Let's start with the Clemson-Georgia matchup. Eric Gilbert, the big tight end for Georgia, apparently is not with the program anymore, or not currently with the program. He may decide to come back, don his Superman cape, and run through and end up being a star for the Bulldogs. But as of right now, he's not there. What does that mean for Georgia? Well, for the Georgia fans that were thinking, all right, this guy's going to come in and he's going to replace the young man who blew out his knee, that's not going to happen. But on the other end, this is not a PlayStation. I know that sounds kind of silly, but it's not a PlayStation. You can't just plug a guy in and think that he's just automatically going to fill the void that someone else had or someone else had when they were there. Here's the other thing, though. For the Clemson fans that are thinking, oh, wow, this is an opening for Clemson when it comes to Eric Gilbert not being there. No. Once again, I've said this from the start. The more and more you look at the Georgia Bulldogs, they are a very, very talented football team. They've got literally one of the top 4 or 5 rosters in the country. And it's not even close. Seriously. Their roster is outstanding from top to bottom. You know, Gilbert is listed as a tight end. They were going to move him to wide receiver. They've got 2 guys that are playing tight end for them that are 5-star players that would start for just about anybody else in the country. And that's just the truth. Georgia is as far as their roster, they are a top flight program. Chris online said, I wasn't expecting much from him right away anyways. Yeah, I think he'd help him become great, but everybody thinking he was going to be a number 1 guy right away is crazy. Chris is a smart fan. Asking a young man to come in and be a huge part of a program that early on a football program is silly. I think you can make an argument in basketball. A guy can come in and help become a team become a lot better really quick. But the idea that one kid is going to come in, and I say kid, he's 6'5", 250 pounds, whatever it is. a top flighted coaching staff, in my opinion. It doesn't have anything to do with their talent at Georgia. It really doesn't. If you want to take calls on that, we can. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the rundown this afternoon. The only thing stopping Georgia is themselves. It's as simple as that. They don't have Alabama on their schedule. They don't have LSU on the schedule this year. They've got to win over Clemson at a neutral site. And let's just be honest. On paper, they're better than Florida. So I think the average Georgia fan will look at it from this, and they should. If this team doesn't roll through the regular season, unless the injury or COVID bug bites, there should be nothing in the round world of football here that keeps Georgia from being one of those top 4 teams in the country. We'll take calls on that at 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. I'm not really convinced that their coaching staff is the absolute greatest, but we shall see. We shall see. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the rundown, right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. The other news from the weekend is quarterback Luke Doty for South Carolina being injured. Now, I tried to look at it from this perspective, and South Carolina was ranked as far as their quarterbacks go, like number 124 in the country, according to 247 Sports composite rankings, etc. I'm not trying to throw dirt on Luke Doty. I'm just saying they weren't expecting a lot out of the quarterback room at South Carolina. But I think Doty was the best option there. We're going to have to see what's going to happen with that quarterback room now. And how long is he going to be out? Coach Beamer said, hey, it's not a full season thing. But in the end, with those foot injuries, you never know. Chris with another great comment. South Carolina can't catch a break. So there was a lot of, and I didn't say this, but Shane Beamer said it. There's a lot of doom and gloom out there. The folks that are talking about doom and gloom need to worry more about the fact that South Carolina's quarterback problems aren't going to be the problem that makes them go, 5-7, 4-8, 6-6, whatever you want to go with. Okay. The problem is going to be in the secondary. Their secondary with Karan Prunty deciding to leave went from shaky to, I don't even know what term I can use without getting in trouble. But the reality is that Gamecock secondary is going to be a problem. Now, I understand there's going to be a set of people that are going to say, you know what, the pass rush is going to have to help with that. And yeah, for South Carolina to win games, that's going to have to happen. That secondary, though, I think is going to get picked on a good bit this season. But you know how you fix that? I believe Coach Oliver Purnell up at Clemson had the best line for this. When they asked Coach Oliver Purnell a long time ago, how do you fix free throw shooting? He said recruiting. That's how you fix this if you're South Carolina. And trust me, Shane Beamer's a smart guy. You think he won't take some tape and basically tell whatever young defensive back around the country, look, do you want to play? in the new SEC with Texas and Oklahoma and, of course, the Alabamas, Floridas, and Georgias of the world? Do you want to be the guy that helps get South Carolina to the point where they're not doom and gloom all the time? You have that opportunity here because guess what? We need some help. Blake says play bump and run and rush 8. I don't think that's going to work. They're playing that 4-2-5 stuff from Coach White. I don't think he's going to change a lot of his philosophies. The 4-2-5 is something that South Carolina's run before. I think it's going to be a lot of bend but don't break type stuff. I really do. We shall see, though, and as the season comes along. But for Gamecock fans, the big thing is going to be it's not going to be quarterback. I don't think the Gamecock offense is going to be something you're going to write home about, but the Gamecock defense is going to be something it's going to be trouble. It really is. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown this afternoon, right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Chris says, what's next for them at quarterback then? Yeah, we'll talk about that. You know, they've got to get through these first 2 games. Going on the road to East Carolina, maybe a little tougher now. We'll talk about that when we come back. Of course, you can always join the show at 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us on the Rundown this afternoon right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. They are a snake bit program, man. Someone said, why not run the wishbone? Can you imagine them trying to run the wishbone with Lloyd and Harris and all those guys? Why not? The triple option. Yeah, that's right, man. Imagine them running the triple option. The wishbone. When your defense is suspect, running the wishbone makes sense because you're going to run time off the clock. Man, if you ever get behind, though, you're in a world of hurt, man. Why not go with the Kerryon Joyner? Yeah. You know, a lot of people don't like that offense. I'm telling you, if you've got the athletes for it, it's a pretty good offense. If you get behind, though, you're screwed. Well, welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Around the world on the iHeartRadio app. I'm Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. Big weekend of scrimmages around the country. It's kind of hard to take away too much from them. The defenses played well. up at Clemson. Coach Sweeney said that in their practice up there, their scrimmage, the defense didn't have one penalty. That's kind of crazy. Back to South Carolina, though, with their options at quarterback. According to Coach Beamer, Jason Brown took the majority of the first team snaps in Doty's absence. Of course, he's the young man that transferred in from St. Francis. He is a big kid. I say big kid. I mean, he's a big guy, really big guy, and looks like the kind of typical drop back, passer that you would want. So the other end of it is also Dakereon Joyner was taking some snaps at quarterback as well. There's, if you watch any of Dakereon Joyner's high school stuff from, Fort Dorchester, where he played, the kind of athlete that Dakereon Joyner is, there may be dreams in some folks' heads of, man, you can have some sort of offense where you have Joyner and Harris and Marshawn Lloyd, all three of them in the backfield, and you're having the defense try to figure out which one do we play? Which way do we go with that? Because you've got guys that can do so many different things with their feet. I'm not saying that's the way that they should go, but I'm saying if I'm Coach Beamer, I'm holding my cards close to my chest, and I send out the weather balloon. Make the defensive coordinators think that you might do that. Why not? Why not? 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. I don't think that losing Doty, if he's going to be out for a while, really changes much for South Carolina. We'll have to see. Let's go out to the phones. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
We've been trying to reach.
I don't know why there's crazy things going on my phone here. Let me get this cleared up. All right. 803-978-1832. As our phones are acting silly today. Fireball says, what do y'all predict South Carolina will go now since Doty's gone? Well, he's probably coming back. So, those foot injuries, though, they're different. If it's on the front of your foot, it takes a while for that to heal. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the rundown this afternoon. What would you like South Carolina to do? Do you think that Jason Brown may be the way to go? Colton Gauthier is the other young man that apparently, according to Mike Uva from Watch Fox, was taking snaps with some of the ones too. I've said this from the beginning that in your first year with what you were left, I'm not saying you should do anything that's going to throw the program off the edge, but I would definitely be trying some stuff. Why not? Get some guys out there that can and put them in positions and see if they can make plays. We mentioned the top 25. That was released today. Coastal Carolina checks in at number 22, along with Clemson up at number 3. So the 1, 2, and 3, I don't think anybody really thought would be much different. Ohio State at 4 and Georgia at 5. There are some teams that could quite possibly that aren't there now, but could make their way into the top 10. Talk about that in a bit. Gauthier, Brock says, was awful during the spring game. Yeah, but spring games, they're spring games. I don't really look too much to spring games and think, okay, this is a game that, it's just something that's out there. Number 10, as Alan was asking online, number 10 in the preseason poll is North Carolina. So lots of love there for the Tar Heels. I hate the unbalanced. I call it unbalanced scheduling, but man, the way the schedule shakes out, if you are a fan of a set team and they don't end up playing each other, the two best teams from a conference, that's crazy. Out to the phones we go one more time. 803-978-1832. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Rundown.
What's up, Rob? It's Beg and Megan. How's it going?
Hey, buddy. How are you?
Hey, I'm a little bit out of the loop. I hate to hear that about Doty. I missed some of it, though. How long is he expected to be out?
They say for several weeks. He's listed as questionable for the first matchup with Eastern Illinois.
Okay. Well, that stinks, man. I don't know how much bad luck one program can endure. I guess the light at the end of the tunnel is next year. At least you got Gunnar Stockton all locked up, you know.
Now, that's not nice, sir. No, I feel bad for Doty as just a, you know, I mean, he's paid his time there and had the opportunity to lead, and now not so much, man. It's gonna be interesting to see what the Gamecocks do.
So you're telling me Gunnar Stockton is not locked up, or
no? You're ripping off wounds there, sir. Gunnar Stockton is not locked up for South Carolina. So no.
Well, I must have missed that. I'll have to take your word on that. I don't know where he could possibly go.
Gunnar Stockton can go just about anywhere he wants to go. You know that as well as I do.
Okay. Well, I must have missed that. Hey, I did want to touch on, I know this is a little bit off topic, the Gilbert situation in Georgia.
I talked about that earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm jumping in late here, but I thought it was interesting the way that when Gilbert did decide to come on to jump aboard at Georgia, I thought Kirby kind of went out of his way to tell people, look, we just kind of threw something out there and he bit. It almost felt like he knew how this thing might end up. He didn't. He wanted to make it clear that he didn't go out there and just lay out the red carpet and beg this guy to come. And I think we know why. Well, I think he put it out there in a way that he realized, hey, this kid's got too much talent to just pass on, but we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this guy.
You know what? You're exactly right. And I remember when the whole press conference with that, when they talked about it, and it's like, you're exactly right. I mean, he's got way too much talent. There were people in the LSU circles that were telling me that this guy was going to be better than Kyle Pitts. And, you know, he has the athletic body to do all of that. But, man, if you're not on the field, none of that matters. So, it's been a roller coaster ride with him. Hey, I'm at LSU. I'm not at LSU. I'm going to Florida. Now I'm going to Georgia. Where's he going to end up at next, man? I honestly don't know.
Yeah, at some point you got to look in the mirror and say, you know what? Maybe it's not the team. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the issue here.
You think that Kirby Smart would probably be best to be like, look, you can be a part of the program, but until we know that you're here and you're full born with us, yeah, we're not going to put you on the field. I think that's kind of the way that I would go.
Well, I'm thinking that's the way he did it to begin with, and that's why he got his panties in a wad, you know?
Yeah. So you never know with kids in the transfer portal now, but it's all over the place, man.
Okay. Well, I'll let you go. I'll check into that Gunnar Stockton thing. I'm going to find out where he's committed to. Okay.
Stop poking. Have a good day, man. Thank you.
All right. See you.
Of course, Gunnar Stockton decommitted from South Carolina and went somewhere else. Anyway, where will Eric Gilbert end up next? I don't know. It's crazy because you see guys with talent like that, and then all of a sudden you watch things like Last Chance U on Netflix, and they end up at some community college out in the middle of nowhere. Ta-da! I know that sounds silly, but that's just the way that it is. All right, taking your calls this afternoon, 803-978-1832. Chris says he'll be at FAU. SCU says he'll be at Tulsa. I don't know where he's going to end up, but he'll end up somewhere. I think Karan Prenti is going to end up probably at Liberty. He originally signed to go there before he went to Kansas or committed there or something. I bet he ends up back at Liberty. We shall see. All right, quick break. When we come back, we'll have more for you here on the Rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Begging Megan's got jokes today. I didn't read that story, but I think that's going to happen. That's Caden. That's a heck of a story there, man. Delaware State. I'm in the camp of I think a lot of these guys are going to help out, especially the quarterbacks are going to help their offensive linemen. If not, you're just a complete idiot.
My daddy, Billy Kaufman, opened Kaufman's Meat Plant at our present location in 1955. My family still works hard every day to ensure fresh quality cuts of beef, pork, and poultry. How about a tasty T-bone, ribeye, or New York strip steak? But to order at Kaufman's Meat and Play, just look for the sign near the intersection of US 1 and I-20 in Lexington. Call us at 356-0076 to place your order. Kaufman's Meat and Play, and you want the very best your money can buy.
This is Chris Collinsworth.
Share the love, yeah. That's right.
Presented by DraftKings. The Hornets both play in the Summer League tonight against the Bulls. Charlotte hasn't won a game in Vegas. Despite playing only 3 games last year, Panthers running back Christian McCaffrey is still a favorite of NFL players who voted in 44th in NFL Network's top 100 for the season. And Jay-Z wants to get into online sports gambling. Hip-hop mogul has applied for a license in New York State. He wants to operate the Fanatics Sportsbook. I'm Scott Davidson.
Download the DraftKings app and use code SPORTS to get a free shot at millions of dollars up for grabs this week with your first deposit.
Minimum $5 deposit required.
Sports Radio, Fox Attitude. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400.
Welcome back to the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Caden Online brings up something, says JT Daniels got a 7-figure NIL deal and is sharing the money with his teammates. Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of that down the line with a lot of different folks. I mean, congrats to him for doing that. Because let's be honest, if you are looking at, hey, I want to sponsor, I have someone from a team to sponsor my brand or I want to sponsor with my business someone from a team, you're going to go with, hey, I want the quarterback, the running back, etc. Yeah. That's the way that it's going to be. So you're not going to think about your offensive lineman. You're not going to think about, not going to think about your safety. You're not going to think about any of that. The Golden Boys, they'll get an opportunity to be the spectacle of everyone else. And if they're going to share their NIL money, that's good for them. You want to talk about, hey, we're building something where we're in the trenches together and we have the capability to become brothers like that. That's the way to do it. James says maybe he wouldn't share it with Gilbert, so he left. Ouch. What a mess. You're free to call the program at 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. if you would like to join us here today. If you want to talk about Luke Doty going down, the Clemson offense having an average day against that defense up there. The defense, though, according to Coach Sweeney, in the first scrimmage of the year, did not commit one penalty. That's impressive when you really stop and think about it. Some of the other things that kind of went off on my Twitter feed over the weekend, it's a lot of folks watching Trevor Lawrence play for Jacksonville. Besides the first play of the game, I think he looks solid. It makes you wonder, though, the crazy thing about Lawrence is that he'll probably lose more games in Jacksonville this season than he lost all the way through college and his high school years combined. We stop and think about that for a second. I'm not ripping the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying the NFL is so different. He may lose more games this season with the Jaguars than he lost in high school and college combined. Chris with a comment off the top rope, not even a targeting penalty. Ouch. Should just have somebody just saying ouch a lot here on the program. All right, so we talked about the top 25 being released today. What teams outside of the top 10 could crash their way into the playoff? Here's a couple of interesting notes. Historically, 23 of the 28 teams to participate in the CFB playoff were ranked in the preseason top 10 of the AP poll. That also means nearly 18% of the participants were unheralded preseason teams. This is from 247 Sports earlier today. In 2015, Clemson was number 12. Number 19, Oklahoma, was also in the mix in 2015. Let's go out to the phones. And welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, this is Jerome with a response to Beg and Megan.
Yeah, what's up, buddy?
Yeah, Beg and Megan. I think you guys need to be worried about Clemson on September 4th and not Gunnar Stockton.
Gunnar Stockton's not even going to play. I think Beg and Megan was bored today, man.
Well, that might be.
Yeah. No, I mean, man, that was bitter with him committing to the Gamecocks and then saying, "Hey, I'm going to go to Georgia." You know what would have been even worse is if he would have went to Auburn and followed Mike Bobo to Auburn with all of that.
God.
With everything that happened there, with Auburn taking South Carolina's offensive coordinator and their linebacker or defensive line coach, and just, I think Gamecock fans, you want to win every game, but beating Auburn this year would be really special, in my opinion. To just be able to, hey, you left here, and guess what? You still lost. That would be just, if I'm a Gamecock fan, I'd want that Auburn win big time. I really, really would.
It was nice last year. I'd never seen us win against Auburn. It'd be nice to get a win against LSU.
Yeah, well, they're not on the schedule this year, but still, Auburn is getting that win over. If they could get the win over Auburn this year and shock the world, because they did last year. I don't think very many people gave them a lot of thought, and hey, they could beat Auburn, and Auburn came into Williams-Brice and took home an L. So they'd get them second year in a row in Williams-Brice. That is interesting to say the least. Anyway, Jerome, yeah, I'm sure Beg and Megan heard you, and we'll await his retort later on. Thanks for calling the show, buddy.
All right, have a good one.
All right, man, there you go. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the rundown. In 2016, number 14 Washington made the CFP after starting at 14th. Georgia was ranked 15th in 2017. They made the playoff. In 2018, Notre Dame was ranked 12th and made the playoff. We always think that Notre Dame is a team that they're Notre Dame. They should be in they should be in a conference, etc. When you look at the past, 5 or 6 seasons, you can go back further than that, the Notre Dame is generally picked in the top 10 and they finish in the top 10. It's weird because I don't think that Notre Dame is the program that they once were, but judging by their results and where they start and where they end up, I mean, they're not nationally. I'd like to think they're on the same level as, I'm trying to think of a good example, but they're a top 10 team. That's where they end up. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Colonel Wooderson online says Sweeney will have to keep neck roll away from Uiagalelei for spearing. Yeah, I doubt they're hitting quarterbacks up there at Clemson. I doubt that. And by the way, no, Uiagalelei is a big old guy. Hitting him, you will know it. All right, quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap up today's issue of today's episode of The Rundown right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400.
I'm Mark Morial, President and CEO of the National Urban League. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of justice. Our friends at the Peace in the Streets Global Film Festival are introducing the Kids, Cops, and Kindness Equals Safer Streets initiative. And this promotes the United Nations 11th Sustainable Development Goal. I'm inviting everyone, 18 and under, to visit PS.
The Publix bagger? Come on, Colonel. I'm not buying all that.
They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-2073. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or
You guys are hilarious.
the IRS. There is
Ultimate once-in-a-lifetime experience.
There we go.
$1,000.
Welcome back to The Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. Big show planned for you tomorrow. We've got a couple of guests that are cooking, meaning that I'm trying to get them on the program. So we'll talk with you about that. Also, I got to finish out today with some of the teams that may end up in the CFP that are not necessarily ranked in the top 10. some of the names in the mix, you look at LSU at number 16, team that went 5-5 last year. Coach Orgeron decided to be a silly goose and hire someone that ended up screwing over the defense. But when you really step back and look at last season, they had one of the worst defenses in the Power 5. They started 3 different quarterbacks, a lot of it because nobody could really stay healthy. And they went into Florida and won down there, knocking Florida out of the CFP. So I think that they've hit the reset button down there at LSU. And I really like what they've done as far as bringing in Durante Jones. And the thing that hinders LSU is that the schedule is tough. Obviously, they're in the SEC West. It's not the SEC East. They've got to play Alabama. They've got to play Texas A&M. They got to play Auburn. They got to play an Ole Miss team. They got a road game at UCLA. They got to go to Kentucky. Yeah. They also host Florida too. So their schedule is tough. But they are one of the teams outside of the top 10 that we could be talking about them at the end of the season. Miles Brennan, of course, being out. They're going to go with Max Johnson, who did really well at the end of the season. So we'll see how that shakes out. Another team that a lot of folks like is Wisconsin. They could end up playing Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. And with that, they could be in the push there to make the playoff. All right, before we get out of here today, I wanted to throw one last thing at you. It's been full speed ahead for a lot of folks. We are definitely in the mix of everything is, especially in the South, where there's a lot of folks that aren't thinking much about COVID-19. And I know you hear so much stuff about COVID-19 on television and everything else, but in the end, are you willing to go down to Williams-Brice Stadium or up to Death Valley or wherever it is you're listening to this fine program? Are you willing to go into a stadium with 80,000 people right now with this Delta variant of the COVID-19 virus that's out there? And I ask because a lot of that's going to affect this season. If you don't think for a second that the folks at the Big Ten won't shut everything down in a nanosecond, trust me, they certainly will. But will that affect you as far as going to a game? I did have someone reach out to me on Twitter, I think it was last night, and they were talking about how they don't want to go to a game if they have to wear a mask. So if you're going to go to a game, first of all, we'll take calls on would you go to a game? Second of all, would you wear a mask if you had to go to a game? A couple of folks online. Chris says, nope, not for the prices and chance of getting it. Look, I'll give you the cost of going to a game is absolutely stupid. Like if you wanted to go to the Georgia-Clemson matchup, good luck, buddy. If you want to go on the road and watch the Gamecocks play East Carolina, don't expect to get into that stadium for less than $100 a ticket. I wonder even if folks are getting to the point now where it's like, you know what? As Blake says, 7,982 cases in Mississippi today, 52 deaths. Wow. When you hear about that, 52 people dying from COVID-19, kind of makes you think, do I want to be? And let's be honest, when you go to a game, it's not exactly the most sanitary spot on the planet anyway. It's really not. Now, I don't want to get into the politics of it. I understand that there's a section of people that think that, COVID-19 was something that was put out there by X, Y, and Z as far as a party goes. I don't want to get into that. I just want to know, would you go to a game? 803-978-1832. Blake also says that their governor says there will be no lockdown and there will be no mask. Here's the problem with that. You can do that, but what's the conference going to do? Because if Greg Sankey comes out and says, yeah, we're going to come to an SEC game, you got to wear your mask, it doesn't really matter. I'm not sure if he can do that or not, but I mean, they can have their own protocols. I just wonder which conference is going to be the first to step up, because the numbers are on the rise. We had a record, almost a record number of cases here in South Carolina the other day. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. I was out working with our sister station this morning, they had a big school event there where, young folks can come and get school supplies, get their hair cut, etc. And I noticed everyone around me wearing a mask. Went back to my car and got mine. I've been vaccinated, but I went back to my car and got mine. Aaron online says the universities aren't sacrificing another year of revenue. Yeah, I understand that. But I'm wondering if one conference is going to come down and say, you know what? You mentioned the rise in deaths, especially in certain states. If one athlete gets this and dies from it, trust me, people are going to get sued. But we may keep our finger on the pulse of that. Are you going to go to a game this season? Or would you rather stay home? There's a part of me that says, if I had the money to go to a whole set of games, because it's expensive to go. But the reality is that if you had all the money to go and money wasn't an object, would you go? I don't know if I'd go or not. I really don't. I don't want to get the COVID and go home and bring it to the family. I don't want to do that. Anyway, it's something we'll keep an eye on. You just wonder if the universities are going to take money over the safety part of it, which that's how some people will look at it. But the reality is this. I like to live in the land of public responsibility. You take care of yourself. If you don't want to go, then you shouldn't go. But I wonder if they're going to try to keep people from themselves. All right, tomorrow on the show, we'll have some guests for you in addition to reports. Clemson practice today. We'll have a rundown on that tomorrow. Thanks for joining us on the show. We'll see you tomorrow right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Appreciate you guys. Y'all have a great day.